Well, so let's get interactive. As always, we encourage you. We have Facebook. We also have X or Twitter, as we knew it to be. And then, of course, we have YouTube, Instagram, and then also Threads. Now, as you get interactive, always add the hashtag TV3NewDay to all your comments. Let us know what you think. Today, we want to discuss the first day of that voter registration exercise being undertaken by the Electoral Commission, and then also the various observations that have been made by all key stakeholders, how the Electoral Commission could also be told that these observations are the real issues on the ground and need to be corrected for the next 19 days, because today also means that we just have 20 days. Now, apart from that, we'll also be letting you in on the conversation, so we'll be opening the phone lines towards the end of the show. And then we'll bring some highlights from you as we discuss Dr. Dampare's appearance before that investigative committee of Parliament and what your own views have been so far. Well, we'll introduce our guest shortly, but before we do that, let me just also apprise you that you can do cash out with us. And so we encourage you to make sure that you have memorized the short code *439#, and then always start cashing out as quickly as possible. We will do the draw at the end of the segment and also get to see our first two winners before subsequently we do the other draws before the close of the show. Also on the other side, we have Dewa 539 Chop Money. And talking about Dewa 539 Chop Money, I want to say good morning to Chairman Godwin Tamaklo of the RAID Group. And I know that it's quite fascinating when we put all these bonanzas forward. But with Dewa 539 Chop Money, you also tend to win big because they tend to do the draw at 10 a.m. And it goes with a short code *446#. But in the meantime, let's do a recall of the first day of the voter registration exercise as picked up by our reporters, first starting from Accra.
At midday, the news team arrived at the Ablekuma West Municipal Assembly and found 19 cards issued to applicants.
It was calm, but they had problems with the network at first. But everything is fine now, so I'm done.
What does it mean to you? You have your card now.
It means I'm qualified now and I can vote.
It went fast. I came on time and they did it for me on time. It's my right to have the card for voting. And as a citizen, you have to vote.
The Okaigwe South District Office experienced a slow process due to poor network connectivity and faulty machines, causing delays in the start and progression of the exercise.
Initially, we had some challenges with the network, which is normal, but now it's been resolved. This NDC, MPP, they are all interested, but so far so good, yeah. No fights, nothing.
Our next destination was the Ablekuma Central Municipal Assembly, which had a high turnout until the rain set in. It's been raining here at the Ablekuma Central Municipal Assembly, but that is the least of the worries of applicants who have turned up to go through the first day of the voters registration exercise. They tell me the card is so important to them because they want to be able to partake in the upcoming December elections, and so they will go through the rain to make sure they get their card. Grace Hamwa Ajuman, TV3 News, Ablekuma Central Municipal Assembly.
Communities along the Volta Lake, including Domiabra, Batokope, Jatakpo, are concerned about the high cost and risk of traveling from their villages to Yeji. Boat fares are high.
Market day no, Yeji 50 Ghana.
It will cost one person at least 140 cedis to travel to Yeji. Aside that, it's the risk involved in the lake travel, feeding, and even the guarantor system. It may even happen that you may not get the chance to be registered the same day. EC must listen to us and follow the previous steps. This makes it financially burdensome for those without a Ghana card to travel to registration centers with their two guarantors.
We cannot come to Yeji for the registration exercise. We can't risk putting our children in boats on this dangerous lake all alone for voter registration. The EC must come to our local station like they did in 2020.
Traveling across the Volta Lake, particularly during the rainy season, is a significant concern due to the risk of boat accidents, which have claimed 15 lives this year. The approach will not help us, so we are begging the EC to listen to us. The lake has become highly dangerous. At least 15 people lost their lives in boat accidents this year. We can't afford to send our wards on that journey. Residents find these circumstances unfavorable, especially for parents who must sponsor unemployed teenagers to Yeji, where they may be forced to stay overnight. Majority of the children expected to take part in the exercise are unemployed. How do they expect them to raise money to pay for the boat fare, their feeding at Yeji, and also that of their guarantors they need? The nationwide exercise is scheduled to end on October 2.
And these are some of the concerns that have been raised by our stakeholders, including us, the media as well, civil society. And of course, we have to take a real look at some of these issues. We'll be joined on the stream. We have Dr. Amakye Boateng, who is a political scientist with the History and Political Science Department of the University of Science and Technology, that's the KNUST. And then also right here in the studio, we're joined by Osman Ayariga, Deputy Youth Organizer of the NDC, because they had been very critical of the Electoral Commission, but also joining them in that suit alongside the other political parties, including the CPP and the others. Now, Mr. Ayariga, good morning to you.
Good morning.
What foremostly were some of the observations that, as a grouping, you had made on the first day of the exercise?
Good morning to you, and good morning to all young people who are interested in making sure they have their names in the register in order to vote out this incompetent, corrupt government. I mean, to vote is a right, and it's a right that every citizen who is above 18 years and sane and of sound mind should be able to exercise. So if you have the Electoral Commission, which is an administrative independent body, which is supposed to make sure that it provides a conducive environment for everyone who is willing to register, is unable to do that, then it raises some fundamental constitutional matters. And it's based on this that the NDC and some political parties, about 5 political parties, decided to go to the Supreme Court so that we can have their rights exercised. And we also went to the Supreme Court based on the strength of Article 2.1 of the Constitution, and also Article 42 and 45 and 46 of the Constitution. Fortunately or unfortunately, the NDC has not been enthused about the turn of events so far as the court is concerned, and also even the activities and the actions of the Electoral Commission, EC, especially Jane Mensah. First and foremost, with the court, you would remember somewhere last week when we finalized all our preparations to file the suit, we just go to the court registry and we're told that the Chief Justice herself had given the order that in her absence, no date should be given, and she herself was the person mandated to give us a date. No problem. And this is very shocking because in the absence of the Chief Justice, the systems must work. And at the time, the Chief Justice,
certainly, ideally,
yes, the Chief Justice was out of town. So what it meant was that if the Chief Justice is going to be out of town for 2 months, the entire NDC and the entire nation would have to wait for the Chief Justice to finish whatever trip she was on, get back to us and be able to attend to such very important, crucial, pertinent issues. Fast forward, on Monday, we were just given a date for the 17th of October to appear before court on our injunction application, of which dates by the time the EC would have been done with this entire registration exercise. Why are we seeking for an interlocutory injunction? It's to make sure that you can stop the process and have certain things or some reservations rectified for the process to continue. So if the court is giving us a date after the 2nd of October, by which time the EC would have been done with its this entire exercise, then we find it very disappointing. And from the NDC, we are extremely disappointed based on the actions of the court. And just yesterday, our national chairman, expressed our disappointment through our press conference. Putting the Chief Justice and the court aside, then you come to the side of the Electoral Commission. We also find it very disappointing, the double standards and the hypocrisy of the Electoral Commission. If you're blowing hot air, let's continue to blow hot air. If you're blowing cold air, let us continue to blow cold air. Let us be consistent in our positions. But the Electoral Commission has been consistently inconsistent in their position, especially Jane Mensah. And I'll state the facts here. If you remember early this year, when the NDC was about to have its internal primaries, both presidential and parliamentary, the EC was served with an injunction notice.
Yeah.
And remember...
And you're talking about the Dufour?
Yes, the Dufour case. And remember the first position of the EC that once they have been served, even before the EC was served, the EC had already started making pronouncement that if they are served, they were not going to continue with any activity. Even before they were served, the EC was already warning the NDC that in case they are served, they were not going to continue with any activities. This is the instance where the NDC has served the Electoral Commission. Not only at the Supreme Court, there's another case in the Volta region where the EC has been served. And the EC has blatantly disregarded all these court services and continues with the electoral process or the registration process. What is the difference between this current service of the rates and the one Dr. Dufour served the EC? Obviously, this is not a love letter from the NDC. This is a court process. So if the EC at the time, which received a rate from Dr. Dufour, could openly take a position that once I have been served, I wasn't going to continue with the electoral process. And today, the same court processes, the same document, the same court, nothing has changed. But today, the EC has decided to disregard all court processes and proceed with the registration exercise. That is why I tell you that the Electoral Commission has been inconsistent in its position and has been inconsistent in the administration of its duties. But what the Electoral Commissioner should know is that they, even though they are an independent body, as they call it, they are also guided by the Constitution of the land. And if you read the Constitution, the 1992 Constitution, Article 296, it tells you that administrative bodies are supposed to be candid and fair in their activities. This is very, very unfair from the part of the EC. And this is unacceptable. And this has been the position of the NDC. And this was what we held a press conference yesterday to speak about. Once you turn 18, it is an inalienable right for you to be registered. And this was even pronounced in the Supreme Court decision in 1996, in the Ten Adi versus Attorney General case, where Ten Adi was unable to be registered. And he took the issue to court. And what did the Supreme Court say? The Supreme Court said that your right to register or to vote is inalienable, and for that matter, nothing can take it away from you. And for that matter, the EC was ordered to go and register them. So if the EC is aware of this history and is aware of this case study, then I find it very preposterous that the EC is interested in disenfranchising the young people of this country from registering. Now, let me zoom to what happened yesterday and why we have continued to speak against most of the things the Electoral Commissioner is doing. Too many inconsistencies, too many blockades, too many issues across the country. And we have a list of the issues of the various... A litany of them. Yes, a litany, yes, of various constituencies and the issues they had. Example, if you indulge me, you go to Savannah region, Bole, they're supposed to start the process at 7 a.m. As of 9:30 a.m., they hadn't started. And please, indulge me and also follow the sequence and understand where these problems are coming from. You realize that it's coming from the stronghold of the NDCs. Greater Accra, Ododiojo, just behind the Electoral Commission's office. As of 10 a.m., nothing had started. Greater Accra, Okaikwe South, 10:31 a.m., no show. Greater Accra, Ablekuma West, 10:40 a.m., nothing has started. You go to Otu region, Biakoye, as of 12 p.m. yesterday when we were reading our press conference, they had not even started the registration. You go to Hohoi in the Volta region, as of 10 a.m., they hadn't started. You go to Sanergu in the northern region, as of 12 p.m.,
they hadn't started the process. You go to Tamale North in the northern region, as of 12:20 p.m., nothing had started. You go to Daboya in Savannah region again, 9 a.m., nothing has started. You go to Damango, 10 a.m., nothing has started. This just has to do with the inability of the EC to start early. Then you go to registration at some centers in which as of midday there were challenges with the machine. So these are also centers where they had started, but then as of midday there were challenges with the machine. Bono is Techima North, Mpoho, Tano North, Trobo, Ablekuma West, Abra Asebu, Lambusie, Takrade, Ashamai, Biakoye, Esikado, Sanergu, Suhum, Boga East, Tamale North, Lower Manya Krobo, Tamale South, Tamale Central, Elembele, Timpani. And you would realize that there have been too many challenges with the issue, and there have been too many issues with the entire process. And it is surprising, unless, of course, the machines have been able to identify that in the NDC stronghold, let us get faulty, and in the MPP stronghold, let us have a smooth operation. And these are our reservations. Election rigging is not just about on election day, stuffing ballot boxes, etc., etc. But
the concerns you have are that they start as a process.
They start as a process.
And these
so once you start, trying to suppress voter registration, that in itself is election rigging. And most importantly, and one very important issue that we have raised in the NDC has to do with the print out of the start of the day process. It's just like you coming for a voters exercise or voting day. The first thing they do is that they empty the ballot box and they show it to the entire public that as of the start of the entire process, the ballot box is empty. But as it stands now, the EC is unable to print the start of the machine for us to be able to ascertain how many people have been registered or how many people are already on the machine, and at the end of the day, how many people have been registered. And these are all concerns we have raised, and we'll continue to raise them. So we are more interested in the inconsistency of the EC. We are more interested in the posturing of the EC, and we are more interested in the EC trying as much as possible to disenfranchise young people who are interested in registering and voting out this government.
And we've been joined by one of our key discussants usually on the channel, and Dr. Kwesi Amakye-Boateng is with the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, I believe the Department of History and Political Science. And Dr. Amakye-Boateng, you take a look at the litany of concerns that had been raised prior to the start of the exercise. And I, for example, had a number of friends who were even giving me pictures as well as telling me at the end of the registration day, out of a targeted 200 in an area like Tema West, only about 80 people had been registered. And then the machines got faulty, there were delays, etc. These are the concerns that have been raised. What would you say about these observations, Dr. Amakye-Boateng?
Roland, good morning and thanks for this opportunity. Let me greet the gentleman from the NDC. It's a cause for one to worry, even if one is just an individual, an ordinary Ghanaian. You see, some jurisdictions make participation in elections, that is voting. Some jurisdictions make it compulsory. And that is the extent to which they place premium on this exercise. The need for a citizen of a state to participate in the politics of his fatherland. Interestingly, it is also a fundamental right. And these imply that the state has a duty to ensure that citizens participate in the processes without unnecessary difficulties. Without unnecessary difficulties. The state should facilitate it. The state, in our case, is the Electoral Commission. And from all intent and purposes, you want to see the Electoral Commission doing its best to ensure that citizens participate. So ordinarily, when you give calls for people to raise such concerns, then those of us in political science will also become interested, we begin to ask questions. What is happening? Is the EC becoming political? Political meaning that ordinarily, Roland, the EC as a body is not supposed to have an interest of its own in executing its duties. It is supposed to uphold the interest of the state, the interest of the nation, in this case, ensuring that those who will want to participate in the process do so. Those who will want to vote when the time comes, or even they want to get the ID card for whatever reasons, it is their right. So if the EC is not seen as behaving that way, then it gives concerns for us to, worry. But possibly this is the one. So can we exercise some patience and see what is happening? If indeed it is the intention of the EC to frustrate the process, it will become so obvious. There's one critical thing, Roland, I'd like to say, at this time, with elections, they should be democratic. And let's take note of the fact that no state is 100% secure. The politics and then the system that is being operated is what ensures that there is security in the state. Here, we operate in a democratic system, and elections, the crucial institution that mediates the conflicts, has to be such that the election management body should be seen by all actors as wholly objective. And that is not really taking sides openly or covertly. It shouldn't. When it happens that way, there are two issues, and they constitute what advocates in electoral governance have put out. The paradox of electoral governance. You want to ensure a level playing field so that the outcomes are not, appreciated ahead of time, ex ante. So they speak of what is referred to as substantive uncertainty. There should be uncertainty on the outcomes. It enables everybody to go all out, participating in the process with understanding that they stand equal chance to win. You achieve substantive uncertainty by creating procedural certainties. These procedural certainties are some of the rules that we're talking about. One has to do with facilitating the acquisition of voters' ID cards by Ghanaians. As it is now, the EC is not seen as behaving that way. The moment it is crossing this line, the playing field is not seen by political scientists as even. The EC appears to be political. The moment you cross this line of procedural certainties, then the electoral management body, you are seen as biased political.
But at the end of the day, while we make these observations, the actions of the Electoral Commission itself is at assigns, including the chair and the deputy chairs and the officials who tend to do the interaction or the interfacing, seem to have precipitated all this. We saw this coming. And apart from condemnation from the media and key stakeholders, I think that individuals like you also should be condemning the EC. I mean, Ghana's Electoral Commission for these sort of actions. Is that not right?
Roland, that is right. Maybe it's on your platform that you've not heard me speak to this issue. Other media bodies have been engaging us and we've come out unambiguously. I'm only reiterating what has already been put out there. As at now that they've started, and they are not showing that they care about their core duties. Roland, is funny. It is funny because it is a charge. If you can't work at the EC, you leave the place. You leave the place. The EC should not be seen as becoming interested in the procedures, in the electoral processes. The term that the EC is independent means a lot, and they only look at it parochially. Those aspects that really strengthen them in their own heads is what they work with. They think they are interested. The gentleman at the studio said it right when they said that independence, is limited to the dictates of the Constitution. That is it. The Constitution doesn't give anybody that sort of free room to affect the system in a way that has the potential to throw Ghana into some confusion. Ghana will have no business going to Niger if this is what Ghana is doing here at home. Ghana has no business condemning any insurrection in any country if this is what Ghana is doing at home. Ghana will want to be seen as doing the right thing so that it can have that moral authority to go outside of its jurisdiction to have a say in what is happening somewhere. And even there, we want to hear Ghana comment about these presidents who abuse their office and change constitutions to see them. We want to see Ghana reject the Ivorian system because Alassane Ouattara simply, while in office, presided over the changing of the constitution. And this is simply undemocratic. This is simply undemocratic. They've all kept quiet. So, Africa is still playing games. Roland, from the time of independence to date, Africa has not made it politically. Africa has not made it economically. And this is what Ghana is doing now. It's really interesting.
We've also been joined by Ernest Afuaqua. Now, Enoch, now, Mr. Afuaqua, you take a look at this. It seems the ruling party, the MPP, is in bed with the Electoral Commission because you don't seem to condemn some of these actions based on decisions they make that ultimately could lead to people being disenfranchised.
Roland, thank you. And very good morning to your cherished viewers. When you mentioned that we are in bed with the Electoral Commission, my first question is, what type of bed? Is it a queen size, a king size, a student bed? You can't phantom it. The New Patriotic Party is capable of winning the next election based on our own strength.
A corrupt bed.
Based on our own strength, and not on any machination or any support or cahoot with the Electoral Commission of Ghana. And indeed, it must be stated that the Electoral Commission of Ghana
is seem to be making mockery of a very serious issue.
It's not a mockery.
Individuals in Ghana.
It is not a mockery. It is never a mockery.
Young people.
No, when you make a definite statement.
First-time voters who want to get onto the roll.
Roland.
The first day they get onto a registration center to have their names on the register are frustrated through processes that have been set up by an independent electoral body. You make mockery and say what type of bed and all that. Is that
Roland,
what, is that what you do
if you make
as a politically exposed person? Is that what you do?
No, is that what you say? As a journalist who have with a duty to educate and to inform the public.
What do you mean?
That if you make categorical statement that we are in bed. So I also ask the question.
Observations from key people, not only from the media but also from civil society.
On the type of bed. Because I don't know any type of bed that the New Patriotic Party is with the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission is a constitutionally mandated body. And we know that per our constitution, the Electoral Commission is also a creature of our constitution. And based on this statute, they have their own independence to run the affairs of the Electoral Commission or the electoral process of our country, per Article 45 of our Constitution. They are there to ask you to produce an electoral register or electoral roll for us. The voters also have the right also to register as voters under Article 47. And per Article 51 of our Constitution, they are required to go through the process by a CI or a constitutional instrument. And I'm not aware from the narratives being churned around that the Electoral Commission is perpetuating any form of illegality. And Roland, this is not the first time that the Electoral Commission is conducting a limited registration exercise in its district offices or in her district offices. In 2019, the Electoral Commission conducted the same exercise across the 268 districts in this country.
That's not true.
That's true. In 2019.
1,500.
In 2019. In 2019, the limited registration were conducted in their district offices. You can
but with multiple centers than we have currently.
You can cross-check.
Yes,
this is a fact. It's a statement of fact.
Yes, and then we have cross-checked this. We discussed this. We discussed it not only yesterday, a day before. And we cross-checked. The number of centers currently are just 268. Now, what was conducted in 2019 were in more centers than we have today, and that's a fact.
The fact also remains that the Electoral Commission is doing its work, and for the past 2 years or 3 years, as we are all aware, the Electoral Commission has not conducted a limited registration exercise. So with the first day of registration, some of these mishaps are expected, that, you know, they are using these BVD machines and all these requirements, and it has been stilled for some period of time now. And certainly, once you are conducting an exercise fresh with a machine which has been packed for some period of time now, you should expect some of these mishaps and those kind of things. And we expect that going forward, day 2, day 3, and day 4, we should have a smooth process, and all these anomalies or mishaps must be corrected by the Electoral Commission, because they have the requisite competence, they have the resources to be able to carry on with their mandate effectively. But Roland, I must state it clear that the New Patriotic Party is capable of winning the next elections based on our own strength and our own competence. What we have done so far for the people of this country, look at the recently announced cocoa price, the first ever in the history of our country, the highest ever. In 15 years, within the West African
That's part of the registration.
No?
Cocoa price.
I'm mentioning that the bed in which you say we are with the Electoral Commission.
He has come here with his own questions to allow him.
Oh, please. You say we are in bed. And I'm mentioning that we are capable of winning the elections based on our own achievements and our own strength. And based on that, the recently announced cocoa price of 1,308. Yes.
That the New Patriotic Party
you asked the question.
Will lose the election.
You asked the question. That we are in bed.
Because of the registration exercise.
You say we are in bed.
Because you're not condemning it. So it's a question from all observers, including the media. And that is a fair question. You say you don't like the question. I'm saying that how does the increment in a bag of cocoa has got to do with registration?
No, you say we are in bed with the Electoral Commission. And what is the purpose of the Electoral Commission? It's to conduct elections. And as a political party, what is our interest? Is to contest and win elections.
Let me ask you this question.
Ask the question.
As a political party, the ruling party, all these years in existence, what have been your observations of the first day of the exercise that you think that the Electoral Commission should take a relook at?
Oh, certainly. As I mentioned earlier on during my introductory remarks, that the first day of the registration were marred with delays and all these matters. I heard Ayariga mentioning that he articulated or he itemized certain districts that registration which ought to have started around 7 a.m. Is that not true? 7 a.m. or something started around 9:30 and thereof. Meaning that as part of their preparations, there were some mishappenings and some challenges of the Electoral Commission that made this process suffer this kind of delays. Going into the second day or the rest of the days, I think they are running this process for almost about more than 10 days or so. And we expect that at least there should be efficiency in the delivery of these services to the good people of this country, as far as the registration of new entrants or the registration of members or citizens of this country onto the electoral roll are concerned. We expect that technologically, the internet access, that we've heard that sometimes because of the delays or the slow pace of our internet connectivity network is also affecting their operations, and they have decided to also do an offline registration so that in case of these challenges, they can have a backup and those kind of things to get people registered. We entreat them that since they are an independent electoral machinery or institution with the resources granted by the state or given to them by the state to run the affairs of the electoral body, they should be able to deliver their work judiciously so that citizens can also have their peace to exercise their democratic rights as citizens of this country. That's what we employ on them. And we encourage people who are also interested, who have never registered, to also go to the district offices as directed by the Electoral Commission to get their name onto the electoral register to be able to exercise their franchise during the district level elections scheduled for December 2023 and fourth, the 2024 general elections, parliamentary and presidential elections. They can also participate effectively.
Osman, we did observe that in areas within Afram Plains, even though the Electoral Commission had been told that these are some of the concerns, the residents, being parents and even those who were first-time voters, said they couldn't trek, at least cross over some of these water bodies to go and do the registration. That also means that a lot more responsibility is not only on these parents, but also as media and the political parties to make sure that they go and register. How do you intend doing that?
Roland, before I even come to that, let me react to what my brother
What did he say?
He spoke about the fact that there's nothing untoward and there's nothing illegal, there's
nothing
unconstitutional about the Electoral Commission deciding to register people at the various offices. This is CI 91, Public Elections Regulations, Voter Registration, CI 91. coming from the Electoral Commission, not from the National Democratic Congress. And I will entreat him to go and read it after this program. Regulation 2.2 of CI 91. In designating a place as a registration center, the Commission shall take into consideration the suitability of the place for use as a polling station on election day, that is one, and the accessibility of the place to prospective applicants for registration. How do you understand this coming from the CI, the Electoral Commission's own CI? This is not a document coming from the NDC. This is a document coming from the Electoral Commission. And this is supposed to guide you in the exercise of your mandate and your duties. Then you tell me that people living in Afram Plains should commute. Some should go through 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours to come and get registered at the EC's electoral office. Is the electoral office designated as a polling station on election day? No. So if you even read the CI, if you read the Electoral Commission's own CI, you realize that what they are doing is untoward, it's illegal, it's unconstitutional, and that is why we are going to court. So you cannot come and sit here and say that because it's the EC, they are registering at the electoral office, so for that matter, there's nothing untoward, there's nothing illegal about it. That is why we are going to court. And that is why, if you, and he's a law student, I'll entreat him, go up and read the Ted Addy case. And that is why when Ted Addy went to court, the court pronounced in his favor that the EC should go and register him. And the EC made pronouncement. The court at the time made pronouncement.
He's aware of the case.
Yes, so I'm surprised. But
once he's a law student, he's aware of the case. But he's turning a blind eye. That's a reality.
No, what is
so
that
I'm coming.
No, that's okay. That's not for you. Okay.
Well, if you don't know the case, I'll educate
no, please go
ahead.
ahead.
But you see, this consistent inconsistency coming from the EC is worrying. And that is why you would realize that we have too many coups in the SAP region. And this has nothing to do with people who just want to go about...
How are you justifying that?
I'm not justifying. What I'm trying to tell you is that if you have constitutionally mandated bodies who are supposed to be independent, who are supposed to exercise their duties and allow citizens to be able to exercise their rights after every 4 years. Ghana is currently enjoying the peace we are enjoying because citizens believe and understand that after every 4 years, my vote will count. After every 4 years, I should just be patient enough, and at the end of the 4 years, I'll be able to exercise that right to vote out a government that they believe that is incompetent or a government that they believe is corrupt. But if at the end of that 4 years, the citizens feel that the EC or the government of the day is finding ways and means to guard them from expressing their rights or expressing those views, then at the end of the day, that is when you realize that you have citizens unrest, you have civil unrest, you have people trying to topple the government. You did ask him that the MPP seems to be in bed with the EC, and that is a fact. Every political party and every citizen of this country has raised genuine concerns about, one, the location of the various registration centers, the distance people have to commute, and the number of constituencies who have been boxed up in some electoral office. You won't believe that just Ridge office here, the EC's the Electoral Commission office at Ridge, roundabout, just at the Ridge Hospital.
Just around its own vicinity.
Yes, you have 5 constituencies having to register in one compound. You have Ayasu West Wagon, Ayasu East, Ayasu Central, Ayasu North, and you have Korle Kulote. 5 constituencies, and these are not constituencies with very small numbers. Go there right now. Take your cameraman there. You realize how choked the system is. How can you have Tamale North, Tamale Central, Tamale South, Sanergu having to register at the same place? And if you also understand the distance involved, even in my own constituency, Boko Central, people had to commute an hour and a half to the central point of Boko, and they couldn't even get registered. They had to go back and come back this morning. You see, the EC as an independent body is supposed to provide an environment for people who are willing and ready to register. But if you make it extremely difficult for anyone who wants to register, then we will raise very genuine concerns. Then we will raise issues. And of course, and if you tell him that they are in bed with the EC, he will ask you what kind of bed it is. I'll tell you the kind of bed you are on with the EC. You're on the same bed of corruption with the EC. You're on the bed of inconsistencies with the EC. You're on the bed of stealing with the EC. You're on the bed of trying to rig the election with the EC. And that is the kind of bed you are on with the EC. So don't come and try to, ridicule or try to make fun of very serious concerns. And these are issues that we must take seriously.
Okay, awesome.
Otherwise, it could just derail the democratic experiment that we have been taking in the past 20 years.
And Dr. Kwesi Amakye-Boateng, for example, our correspondent in the northern region, Savannah, as well as northeast region, for example, just itemizes what the targets are and what has been registered just from the first day. In Kumbungu, only 71 people had been registered, even though we had over 500 people who had converged at the center to get registered. Now, it will mean that within that area, that whole constituency, people had to travel far and near to be there. And the machines, he said, were faulty. The network was slow. And then also the personnel manning those machines did not almost know what they were doing with those machines. Sadly, even in Tamale South, only 2 people were registered at the end of the day. You take a look at some of these numbers, Dr. Kwesi Amakye-Boateng, with all your experience. How would you describe the attempt by the Electoral Commission to be justifying why it decided to put at least only 1 registration center per district?
Roland, actually, there can't be any justification for that. The gentleman from the MPP cited previous cases, precedents. In a situation of this nature, precedents do not turn into the norm. The norm is established by the Constitution, is established by the EC's own CI that the gentleman from the NDC read. So the mere fact that previously some of these exercises have taken place in the EC's office does not necessarily provide a justification. Roland, we are playing games. We are playing games. Unfortunately, it is a dangerous game. You see, critically, you want to look at this issue. Electoral management bodies in democracies around the world face daunting charges. In spite of the experience, in spite of the technological superiority, the United States admitted that in the elections of 2020, the one that really has created problems for Donald Trump, did have some challenges. They admitted. But the challenges weren't enough to really overturn the outcome of the whole electoral processes. And for that matter, Donald Trump did not have a case. I've been following the developments over there. Now, the point I'm making is that here in Ghana too, we are bound to have challenges. The first day's challenges, for example, could be forgiven. I mean, the EC could be forgiven for the first day's challenges, but the problem is the posture of the EC. It makes it difficult for you to take the EC as playing the role of an independent body and, for that matter, an objective referee. Like I said, technically, these things that we in political science call procedural certainties, making sure that the rules are interpreted fairly. In this case, that is missing. The EC's insistence on having these procedures take place at the offices is a misinterpretation of the rule. It is an illegality. And there's another issue, time and context. I'm reliably informed that these exercises have not been done for the past 2 years. The implication is obvious. The numbers have gone up, meaning that if some time back you conducted it at your office, the processes were smooth. Even then, ordinarily, the EC that wants a smooth processes will engage the political parties, the key actors, interested actors, at a meeting and get into some consensus with them before doing it at your offices. You don't do it relying on your powers, the argument that I'm an independent body. I can decide where to do it. You can't decide where to do it. So, in a situation of this nature, you cannot give the EC the benefit of the doubt and say that it is facing normal challenges that democracies around the world also face. In a situation like this, it is only fair to be suspicious of the EC. Why? Because we operating with a paradox here. Members of the EC are interested actors because they vote. Even in the United States, Donald Trump went all out to try to get people to affect the system. Currently, one has been jailed. Here, it should not be out of place for those interested in the outcomes of our elections to try to affect the EC, to introduce biases into the operations of the EC. It is not something that we should take for granted. And so it's good that the NDC, those political parties with NDC or on their own, taking an action at the courts. So, like you said, the EC currently cannot be given the benefit of the doubt. The sort of challenges we have are the places where to be anticipated by an experienced electoral commission. The EC of Ghana should be that experienced. The first day, this was to be anticipated. And here, where I sit, I can't blame the EC for the difficulties that the machines, some of the machines have been having. But then it is really also interesting why the machines are behaving that way in specific locations. Why is that the case? These machines, do they have what I call some organic elements in them so that they also become sensitive to the environment? The numbers are ridiculous. So I think the EC is creating problems for itself. It is not making it possible for us to give it the benefit of the doubt because of the normal challenges associated with democratic procedures everywhere around the world. There are normal challenges, difficulties. But then the issue has got to do with the posture and then the implications of the actions and inactions of the EC. Here, one dangerous implication is that many of the first ladies and gentlemen who went to register and got terribly frustrated might not go back. They might not go back.
Yeah.
And you see, when it happens like that, it is Ghana that is placing constraints in their way. If they decide not to go back, Ghana has consciously or unconsciously disenfranchised them.
Yeah,
that becomes an inequality.
And Dr. Kwesi Amakye-Boateng, the worry is that people will get disenfranchised because this is becoming almost like a deliberate attempt or ploy by the Electoral Commission to undertake these delays of registration in areas of the opposition. And this is at variance to what its own CI 91, which is governing this registration process, says. And it says in section 3, if you take a look at it, it says the commission shall, at least 21 days before the first day of the national registration voters, inform political parties and the general public by publication in a gazette at a place it designates as a registration center. Now, before then, it says that in designating a place, that's in 2, as a registration center, the commission shall take into consideration the suitability of the place for use as a polling station on election day and the accessibility of the place to prospective applicants for registration. Now, we have reports coming in. And for example, Dr. Clement Apak, who is a member of parliament for Bosa South. If you go to Bosa South, vastly sparsely populated. He says 3 out of the applicants were registered, only 3, Dr. Amakye-Boateng, only 3 were registered in the EC office in Bosa South. Sadly, most applicants traveled from distant communities, Dr. Amakye-Boateng. This is the rainy and farming season with terrible roads. And Dr. Amakye Boateng, you have experienced these things yourself. Even in the center of Kumasi, we have these problems you keep complaining about. I've heard you many times. In addition, the cost of transportation is too much to bear. Dr. Amakye Boateng, if you were close to some of these first-time registrants, how would you feel? On the other hand, as a political scientist too, what is your reaction to some of these things?
Obviously, like I suggested, some of them might really become fed up with the system and might not go back. Some of them might not go back, you know, given the current economic challenges that we find ourselves in, the level of unemployment. Many of these people find themselves in that, you know, situation. So already they are really dissatisfied with Ghana. They are. I always ask students what their reaction would be if they were to be given an opportunity just to enter a plane that would take them out of this country to any developed country of their choice. They don't need passports, they don't need visas. They were laughing at me. There won't be a single person in the class, you know, in a few moments after that. So you have many people desiring to leave the country. Clearly, we can speak of misgovernance. If one's country is not attractive, the place where you ordinarily feel safe, you know, where your constitution protects you, if you don't want to stay there, then we have misgovernance in place. In the midst of this, then we have an electoral commission, and I like the way you put it. That is not giving us the opportunity to say that the electoral commission is doing its best, but it's encountering challenges. We are not in a position to say that. Now, what we can say is that it appears the electoral commission has developed an interest in the exercise. It shouldn't have an interest in the exercise. Its interest should be to serve Ghana. And so it should have been seen on its own to be facilitating the procedures. The last time I was making a case somewhere. I stay at KNUST closer to Bomso. Ofaru Krom is where the district office is. I will take just one vehicle to go there. But then I expect some young men and women who will not afford, you know, that amount of money that will involve in taking just one vehicle to go to Ofaru. They won't. And so they won't go. So here, you can capture that in what the LI establishes. The places where the registration should take place.
Okay.
There shouldn't be any constraint in there. There shouldn't be any difficulty in there. Yesterday I was saying that we are faced with an interesting scenario. The EC, I'm told, is a lawyer. Dr. Bosman Asari, my colleague, lecturer, a political scientist. Then you expect these two to have all the expertise necessary to serve Ghana, I mean, in the best way possible. They are not doing that. They are not doing that. The two people can have no excuses for what is happening. Okay. It is only reasonable to say that it is a conscious effort to frustrate the system. I will come to that conclusion if this development, you know, unfolds continuously for, say, 1 week, and we still have these challenges. The challenges of getting people to travel long distances when the Constitution mandates the EC not to do that.
Exactly.
The EC is flouting it. The lawyer, Jay Mensah, knows this. The political scientist, Dr. Bosman Asari, knows this. And so it is an overt action, conscious behavior by the Electoral Commission to disenfranchise people. I'll wait for a while, and then I'll be able to come out to openly say that.
All right.
I want to see how they react to the first day's challenges and whether they are ears to hear. At the time that hearing will do them and Ghana some good. Because time is a factor in the discussions that we are having. As far as I'm concerned, at this point, these issues have been in the public for a while. I don't think they have ears to hear. But then let's see what transpires in the days ahead.
Right. You seem to be a patient man, Dr. Kwesi Amakye Boateng. Now, Mr. Afuakwa, how do we get these things resolved? Ruling party or no ruling party? You're a politician. How do we get these things resolved?
It is the civic right of every citizen to undertake its civic responsibility to the nation. And as far as that is concerned, we believe that the way to go is a national identification system. We need not to be queuing long queues to get ourselves registered. How can we keep doing this for years? We've done that in the past because we did not have structures and systems in place. And now we have the National Identification Authority, a single database of the country. Can't we link up all our ID systems and synchronize them together so that when you get to the age of 18 or age of majority, that you can register to get yourself onto the electoral roll, the system will communicate automatically, just for your confirmation systems, so that even in the comfort of your home, you can even get your clearance to get yourself registered because your ID number is there. It is linked with the Electoral Commission's database, and all these material issues, whether somebody is in bed or what, all these things will be a thing of the past, so that we can also join hands with the advanced world in doing some of these things. Roland, we can't continue to be queuing outside to get a voters register. That is why even in the electoral commissions, one of their CIs, they have a continuous registration process. That the continuous registration process will be implemented on those kind of things. And I believe that they must synchronize that together with the National Education Authority database. But my brother made some unseemly statements on your platform that we are corrupt with the Electoral Commission, we are stealing with the Electoral Commission and all those material facts. Were they doing that when they were in government with the Electoral Commission? The mere fact that as a political party with interest in the electoral processes of this country are not coming out openly to condemn or to entertain some of the issues that they are doing, to chastise state institutions, means that we are in bed with the Electoral Commission. It's a fallacy. It is not true. The public must disregard those statements, and we are focused as a political party to be doing what we must do for the people of this country. Roland, the Electoral Commission is independent.
That's what we say.
The Constitution of our country is the supreme laws of our country. And per Article 2.1 of our Constitution, that any other person who finds that any enactment is inconsistent with the Constitution of Ghana can bring an action to the Supreme Court. And I believe the National Democratic Congress, a political party with interest in elections in this country, the Convention People's Party and the Liberal Party of Ghana and another political party are in court before the Supreme Court to invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court as far as the enforcement interpretation of the Constitution are concerned. Dr. Amakye Boateng is also saying the Electoral Commission is misinterpreting the provision of the constitutional instrument.
It's not true.
And I don't have the requisite mastery to say that they are misinterpreting the provision of the Constitution or the CI.
They are misapplying.
Where rival meanings are ascribed to a portion of a legislation or a constitution, then the onus lies on the Supreme Court or the High Courts to give us interpretation to this matter. And that is why we are in support with the action that has been brought before the court for interpretation in this matter.
The MPP is in support.
Why? The people of Ghana are in support. That at the end of the day, the court will bring finality to this matter, so that rival interpretations and rival meanings that are being given to the provision of this CI, as you rightly read, that the Electoral Commission must create accessibility, enabling environment on all those utilities, whether they considered all those material facts or not, will be settled by the courts of our country.
As we wind now, let me take a couple of your messages before we get on to the next issue of the IGP and quickly deal with it, because Dr. Kwesi Amakye Boateng is still with us, so as a political scientist, he can also do justice to the subject. Kelvin Ni Ashon says, it's intentional. Inshallah, we will rescue this country. La ilaha illallah, we will rescue this country. Kelvin, thank you for the message. Kojo Tetebotaimba saying, hey, what is the MPP communicator saying? Musa Ali Koni says, can you tell Mr. Afuakwa that he's simply not speaking to the issue? Well, to be fair, he's fairly speaking to the issue as well. Bra Kweku, not only are people being disenfranchised, but also these are attempts to start a rigging process. That's Bra Kweku. Now, Harisu Laminu says the media is also contributing to the political ridicule of the EC. You focus too much on the challenges based on the reports, there are equally positives from yesterday's activity. And then also, if this persists, then there should be a cause to riot or demonstrate. That's Lord Rich. Now, Dr. Kwesi Amakye Boateng, I'll come to you in a bit, but let me take an insert from yesterday's witness statement of the IGP before the committee that is investigating the Bugri Nabu removal of the IGP leak tape.
Made all these allegations in order to cover up probably the shame associated with what they got themselves involved in the first place. And I, an innocent person, focusing on my job, working in concert with my team and all commands across the country to keep the country safe and make it to be at peace with itself. I've been asked to come and answer to these allegations, which are wide, baseless, and I feel in my spirit.
Dr. Kwesi Amakye Boateng, what do you make of the IGP's appearance before the committee yesterday? Just shortly, because we don't have enough time. I'll give you 3 minutes, please.
Well, I've heard many commentaries about it, and many people see his appearance there as ridiculous. And that it gives an impression that he's the one who stands accused. And, well, looking at it, it's really funny. You know, lawyers, they talk about the one who alleges will have to, simply demonstrate that he or she knows what he's talking about. And you would have expected that thing to happen. But then he has been there and then he's come out. I think we await the outcome of the whole procedure. But one thing with the current IGP, he really has a vision that is guiding him. And I think it is a good vision for Ghana. There's one thing that I've not seen any IGP do: stakeholder engagement. He's been doing that, trying to reach out to various segments of society, to listen to them, and also to engage them and try to demystify some of the things that surround the police. And to me, that is huge. It's an element of good governance, and we can't downplay it. So he might have, his fault. It's an individual, and the police is a human institution. Obviously, the challenges are there.
Okay.
But then some of these things are interesting. We wait to see the outcome.
All right. Osman, how do we deal with this? These are, well, some say that these are the same elephant fighting. So, because if you don't...
I'm sure if you ask Enoch same elephants, he'll ask you what type of elephants are fighting. But, even before I come to...
You have 3 minutes, please.
Yes, but I'll just want to react.
You have 3 minutes.
Yes, I have 3 minutes.
Osman, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, Roland, I have 3 minutes. I would just want to react to very important things and also send out some information as far as the voter registration is concerned, because that is of utmost importance to me this morning, to the NDC, and to every young person out there who is 18 years and above and who wants to register to be able to oust this incompetent government. So to the young people out there, in as much as you are going through so much difficulties in trying to register, even though you are going through so much distance, you have to commute several kilometers to be able to get to your registration center. This is just a clarion call from His Excellency John Dramani Mahama that we should be steadfast. The process of ousting a corrupt government is one that is Herculean. We would have to fight. We'll have to make sure we are ready to fight and oust this government. It is not going to be a walk in the park, and the process has just begun. So let us go out there in our numbers. If it's going to take us 10 days, 20 days to register, let us make ourselves available to be able to register and to vote out this incompetent government.
You have a minute.
Thank you very much. Yes, now I wanted to also react, but since I have a minute, let me just try and do what happened yesterday. Interestingly, I've been following this entire Bugri Nabu gates, and some of the tapes have been coming out here and there, and it's been shocking, disappointing, and embarrassing to realize the kind of tapes that have been put out in the public. Some accusations here, some MPP policemen, accusing the IGP, some MPP policemen also saying that they need to mafia a certain group, how they need to orchestrate to be able to win the elections, how they need to do certain things in terms of mafia to be able to win the elections. And this also just comes back to us to understand that the current government is making it very difficult for independent bodies to work so far as their independence is concerned. And that's why I'm not surprised when you asked him that is the MPP and the EC in bed together, and he was finding it very difficult to answer. You realize that they have tried as much as possible to be in bed with many state institutions that are supposed to be independent. I believe that even though the image of the Ghana Police Service has been bastardized, I believe that there are still some individuals in there with high moral integrity, some individuals in there who are ready and willing to work hard for this country, who are ready and willing to make sure that the good things of this country happen. So I am extremely disappointed with the turnout of events, but I must commend the IGP for his display of maturity and how he handled the issues yesterday. But of course, as you said, this is a tale of two elephants fighting.
How do we resolve this then?
Roland.
You have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
The natural fight is 2 minutes. Hurry up.
The Inspector General of Police was before the parliamentary committee to give his testimony with regards to the matters that has been raised. It was Mr. Bugri Nabu's private conversation with some officers who were interested in lobbying to become to get the high office of Inspector General of Police, to get themselves appointed. It has nothing to do with government. It has nothing to do with the New Patriotic Party. But judging from the outcome and how the conduct of these investigations are going, it adds another layer to our democracy, and it has deepened our democratic practices and ideals. I am enjoined to say that at the end of it all, at least there will be several reforms in the police service. And the police administration or POMA will also learn a lot from these things. My worry is that they have their own set of regulations, and they need not to have waited for even the parliamentary probe. They ought to have taken action earlier to have resolved this matter internally per their internal grievance procedures. But it is better late than never. I believe that the principle of natural justice must also prevail, and that anyone that has been mentioned must be interrogated so that at the end, the nation Ghana benefits from the outcome of this, so that we can have a better police service that can give us the peace of mind to sleep as citizens of this country.
Okay, let me go through a couple of your comments before we wrap up for this morning, and then we cash out, and then I get a last word from Dr. Mache Boateng. Mike Kofi Aflu says, did I hear President Akufo-Addo say that what His Excellency John Mahama said about the judiciary is dangerous? What is more dangerous than the wicked agenda of the MPP of a repenting fear restricted Ejapadia document? Now, I have Alhaji Hassan, who says, why should the court set a date of hearing between the political parties and the EC after the exercise of the registration, by which time the exercise would have been over? Now, I have this one also from Kwewu Abetifi, and that's from Haruna. He says, in the Abetifi constituency, only 2 persons came out to register their name because those in the hinterland could not come because they didn't have the means to. Anthony Nukpenu says, citizens from Domiabra Obom traveled all the way to Wejagbawe, SCC, to be registered. Out of the 101 people who came from the distance, only 17 were registered. 84 had to go back yesterday without getting registered. A person, for example, spent 65 Ghana cedis. And then you say, Roland, the high number of registrants on the first day of the registration where MPP won in 2020, and you made mention, Tamale South, Central 3, Willensi 14, Tamale North 16, Sanorogo 16, and counting. So you're worried about it. Now, I have Maxwell Akpabli. Is Dr. Apiahene, the MPP communicator who is now the EC member, not enough reason for anyone to say the EC is in bed with the MPP? The MPP communicator should stop lying. That's Maxwell Akpabli, Ayawaso East constituency. 2024 election is going to be based on track records, and no instructions can help any political party to rig elections. Dr. Baumia Beba, signal no, you're strong. Master Planner Junior Kentampo. And then I have this one from Dr. Hilal Liman Technical University, from Tain President. Tain is NDC, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So he says we plead with the EC to decentralize the registration center across polling station. Now, it is a sad situation. For example, we're even talking about Ashanti, and this one, he says, the capital is in Nsuta in the Ashanti region. If people from Yereso or Oku want to come to register, they have to take the motorcycle to Ejura, join a car to Mampong, and take another car to Nsuta. This means that they may decide not to be on the voters' roll, and Dr. Mache Boateng has said that. Now, I have this one from Awudu. And then another one, I have this one also from Kalio. Kalio says, IGP Dampare was superb. In fact, he deserved to be the IGP. Now, Dr. Mache Boateng, your wrap-up comments in a minute, especially on the EC's organization and supervision of the register. Just in a minute, 60 seconds, before we go to cash out.
The EC boss should take note of the fact that if anything untoward happens in the elections ahead of us, 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections, he stands accused as a person, as an individual, who would have abused her office and consciously thrown Ghana into that confusion. And if we saw what happened in the United States, a near coup d'etat, elections have the potential to generate such a thing in any country. No country is absolutely secure, especially if it is a democratic country, because democracies consciously organize hot conflicts in elections. So anything at all can get out of hand.
Okay.
And if something like that should happen, the EC boss, Jane Mensah, stands accused.
Okay.
He would have made history. She would have made history, yeah.
Thank you. The distinguished Dr. Kwesi Amache Boateng of the History and Political Studies Department, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Thank you, Osman. And then also, I'll give you first name, Osman and Enoch. Thank you very much. And then I have this one from Mama Gold. Whatever you do to disenfranchise us, Ghanaians will surely speak December 2024, inshallah. And then we also have Benjamin Tete. Can you tell the MPP gentleman to speak as a patriotic citizen and not one who is only thinking about power? Power will change one day. It can be today, it can be tomorrow. Now, this one from Ni Atukwekwe, Neodic. Roland, please, is the National Peace Council aware of these issues going on? Kindly contact them for us, because they've been sleeping for too long. And then also Pascal Beba also adds the Christian Council. All right, thank you for watching this morning. But if we can cash out, it'll be a good thing. Okay, so we're cashing out, and quickly let's do the draw. I love this part, and it's with *439#. Make sure that you cash out as many times as you can. 439#. That's the code there. So *439#. Now, can we cash out? Let's count down. 3, 2, 1, cash out. So the first winner is the number 0548114 and counting. So that's the first one. Can we do the second one quickly?
That's Osman's number.
Okay, so we'll call the winner. Let's do the second one, and then we'll Okay, so we have the second winner, and 3, 2, 1, cash out. Winner 0547960 and counting. So that's the second one. All right, so we'll call the winner in the next segment. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll bring you the latest in sports and then all that you need to know right here on TV3 New Day. Stay with us.
Jackpot of the week. Place bets and hit the jackpot.